So the Biden administration now has a new plan to just give you free college. Yeah, that's what they're discussing. But I want to break down what's going on, why this is coming out now, because again, we've heard a lot of different reports, a lot of different rumors, speculation over the past few months. Now we actually have an idea as to how we're going to move forward. So before we get into anything, all I ask is if you can spend 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's begin. So why is the Biden administration trying to give you free college? What is their plan? What is the purpose? Well, here's the thing. The Biden administration, or in particular, President Biden himself, promised that he would forgive student loan debt. That was something that he is not able to do. We've known this for some time. Now the Supreme Court ruled against him, and so now he has to turn. He has to pivot. And this is how he's going to pivot. He wants to provide free college. This means not just people that are currently paying their loans off. They could potentially see some debt forgiveness, but he's talking about future borrowers could actually go to college for free. Yeah, let me show you this. This is an incredible article by Axios. This will answer all your questions. So, it says why it matters. It matters because the federal student loan payments are coming due in September for the first time since the pandemic began, and millions of Americans will struggle to make the payments. We've seen multiple reports over the past few weeks, even from the Department of Education, saying that they are a little bit concerned with how people are going to be able to make this payment. This is one of the reasons why they extended the payment pause. However, we do know the payment pause cannot be extended any further. So, people will have to start making this payment. Well, it says driving the news. The loan forgiveness program that the Supreme Court struck down yesterday would have wiped out up to $10,000 for borrowers under a certain income cap and up to $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. The cost of the federal government around $400 billion over the next decade. Now, that is a very important number to know, is the $400 billion over the next 10 years, because that's going to come up again in this article. Okay? But let's get right down to it. So what is next? What is next? Well, it says the administration is looking to other avenues to give borrowers a break, though the effects will be noticeably smaller and at least for individual borrowers. So we already know the Biden administration is trying to do what they can to provide some relief to people that are currently paying off their debt or haven't made a payment in the past 3 years, but are expected to come September or October. Well, this new plan is going to make the benefits that they receive a little bit less. They're not going to get $10,000 or $20,000 of student loan forgiveness. We're going to see a smaller payment. We're going to see a smaller amount of forgiveness. But again, there's still forgiveness being discussed. So let's get to that as well. It says Biden vowed yesterday to pursue a new path to debt relief, which the Department of Education has initiated, but acknowledged that it's going to take longer. We knew it was going to take longer, okay? And it is. President Biden also announced a 1-year ramp on for loan repayments. There are 1-year on ramp for loan repayments, during which borrowers who miss payments won't be reported to credit bureaus. They will not be placed in default, and their debt will not be referred to collection agencies for 1 year. Again, that is something that we talked about over the past few days. We knew there's a good chance it was going to happen. Now we know for sure it is going to happen. These are all things that President Biden can do legally. Okay? There could be some pushback from Republicans, but he does have the legal authority to do all these things. It also says the Department of Education also finalized a new income-driven loan repayment plan, which President Biden described as the most generous repayment program ever. I discussed this the other day as well. He is simply going to cut your payment in half. Yeah, cut your payment in half. That is huge, especially if you had a $200 payment. Now you could potentially be only paying $100 per month. So again, that's a major savings there. Says the big picture. The loan forgiveness program was only one of the administration's attempts to offer relief to borrowers. There's other attempts as well. It says it had also extended the pandemic era pause on payments several times, costing the federal government nearly $200 billion, but was barred from doing it again by the provision in the debt limit bill. Okay, this is that debt ceiling bill, what they call it, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, that was passed earlier on this month. It also says its revamp on the income-driven repayment program, finalized yesterday, will reduce many borrowers' monthly payment obligations and will eventually result in some degree of loan forgiveness down the road. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is where they went from the repay program, which was originally set up by former President Barack Obama, and now they're going towards the SAVE program. Again, it's going to reduce the amount of your payments would actually be. It also says, and this is very important to know, some estimates have found the plan could cost the federal government nearly as much as the loan forgiveness program would have over the next decade. It's $400 billion. Unlike loan forgiveness, the program will be available to future borrowers as well. So what does this mean? Well, we're going to get to a little bit more of this article in just a second, but here's the reason why I bring this up. Because the loan forgiveness, okay, this would have only helped people that are currently have a debt, currently have some form of student loan debt. The plan that the Biden administration is trying to put in place, okay, which again, he has the legal authority to do it. This plan could actually cost the U.S. government more money because it is saying right here that the program will be available for future borrowers as well. Okay? That's the issue. Now, this is going to be great for people that are going to plan on go to college and all this stuff, but what if their plan is to go to college and if they can't make the payment, no big deal, they just won't make it? Well, it's very likely because that's exactly what we are set out to do. That's how we're setting things up. This is where I believe Republicans are going to come back on this eventually. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because, again, they only have the House of Representatives. They would need the House, the Senate, and the presidency to be able to overturn this. But as of right now, they just don't. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. But it also says, so we zoom in. It says, under the new program, borrowers have a certain income threshold, above a certain income threshold would be required to pay a small portion of their disposable income, 5% for undergraduates, instead of the current 10% toward the loan. This is what I'm talking about. It used to be 10%, now it's going to be 5%. They're cutting it in half. They could ultimately see portions of their balances forgiven. Yeah. And guess what? This is not just for people that have loans today. It is for future borrowers as well. Okay? So yes, your payment's going to be cut in half, and you could potentially see some of your balance forgiven because, well, guess what? Even people that get a loan tomorrow can still do this. It says in a fact sheet, the White House said that all student borrowers in repayment are eligible to enroll in the new plan and will be able to do so later this summer before any monthly payments are due. It says the early completion of the rulemaking process gives borrowers greater certainty about how to structure repayment come this fall. So yes, we are going to see major changes. These are big changes as far as student loan debt, but this is huge for future college students as well, because as of right now, you're expected to pay back whatever you borrow. But under this new plan, you might not have to. You will get a smaller payment. You would potentially get some loan forgiveness. And in the end, it might not hurt your credit report. You will not get this sent to collection within the first year. And this as far as we know, could actually be extended. So yes, the payment pause, that expires. But this new provision where you can't get it's not going to ding your credit score, right? You're not going to see this go into default, and you will not see this loan be sent to collection. That is for 1 year, but that could also be extended. So it's interesting what we're seeing right now, but that is President Biden's new plan to try to boost higher education, and that's his goal of trying to do some type of college education reform. Right now, what we know is Republicans still aren't happy with what is going down at this time, but again, there's not a lot that they can do about it until they hold more power in the Senate and in the presidency. So we'll see what happens moving forward. That is what we know at this time. Again, as always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. Thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.